that's one connection I've had with people. People usually say it's very easy for them to open up to me. And I think that comes from two things. One is I have had no shame in my life of who I am and what experiences I've gone through and what mistakes I've made, if they're called mistakes. I like to call them learning experiences. For me, it's my book, my life is like a story. And if I can share that story with people without having judgment towards myself, it's easier for them to see that they can then open up to share whatever it is that they're going through in their life and know that they're not going to be judged. Because here I am sharing my darkest, life story or experience with them without any ounce of showing judgment on what I have gone through, then they know that they're safe. And I think another more important thing is listening. I try to listen to them not just from my ear, but from my heart, knowing how difficult it must be for them to go through what they're going through. And that has been the biggest forming of friendship in my life. Most of my friendships are very deep. They are very loving. They are very caring for each other. And people usually come to me with, I did this and this happened. And, and it's listening without judgment. And then I think being there for them and just giving them a light of hope, because most of the stuff like I have gone through, I would say, and I feel like it's easier just to be able to see any kind of silver lining. It's so easy to go down on yourself. It's so easy to think negative about yourself. How do you take a certain situation, make it positive? What can we see beautiful out of whatever it is that they're going through? And I think that's the key, is to show any human being a silver lining or be grateful for what it is that they have. And the moment you give them an attitude of gratitude, of what it is, even though they're in that sad space, what is it that they can feel positive about? What is it that they have that they can be grateful about? And then just at that moment, what it is that's coming to me and that I'm feeling at that moment, it would be different for every person. But mostly it is to help them see just something positive in their life. And when you shift that focus from that dark space area or negative to being a little bit more grateful or a little more hope, I think that people feel better and people feel lighthearted. And when it doesn't happen on a talking level, it happens through Reiki. I just recently had a friend actually who was really down and she was crying and she was just crying. And funny enough, I was there to give her Reiki, and it gave me a whole lot of perception. And just, I was listening while she was still crying and giving her Reiki, and I was loving her through my hands, because I wasn't doing much of talking through my mouth, but it was more from my heart and my hands, and just through giving through that way. So I think it varies from situation to situation, but it mostly is to listen without judgment, to hold the space for them to feel safe, to, of course, love them. That goes without saying in any of these, in any of this conversation. If I haven't mentioned it, goes without saying, loving them. But then to help them see something positive and a silver lining. I think that usually helps at least make them feel somewhat better. So.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, well said. Very nice. Very nice. I think possibly the unconditionality of your love. I mean, would you say that in some ways comes from the the sort of trials that you went through, the circumstances that you went through? Did that give you?
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
that's all right.
I would say it's a blend of my circumstances in my life. Of course, our experiences carve us for who we are today. Our everything that we go through makes us the person that we are, and I do love who I am. It's a beautiful blend. I think, yes, I've gone through a lot of difficulties. Losing my mom at the age of 15, I was then asked to move to America at the age of 16. It was not really even an option. It was the family had decided that we need to move to America because my mom's side of the relatives lived in America. so it would be easier for me to live here. And my dad was then left alone in India, and both my sister and I, my sister was already here. It was either then sort of shipped to America, I can say, pretty much. And it was very difficult in those, few years from 15 to like 18, 19. Self-sabotage, there was a lot of judgment, there was a lot of wanting to hurt myself more than anybody. I wanted to hurt the world, but I knew hurting the world was not going to be the answer. So then you hurt yourself, and that would be by not being healthy or not eating right or putting on a lot excess weight or just, not taking, I've hypothyroidism, I've had it since I was 8, 9 years old, not taking my thyroid medicine or just things that were unhealthy. And then it was a pattern. I got into bad relationships. I met people that were not good to me in a relationship more than, one that I can say physically, mentally, or sexually in that case. And it was a torture to be in a relationship that did that. And, I had seen that in my childhood, growing up as a child. The relationship that my parents had that wasn't very healthy either. It was very abusive as a kid as well. And there was these are just a few things, a handful of things compared to a lot more that happened much later in life. But there was one thing that I saw that kept me positive, even though I went through, sometimes I can say hell, or I put myself through hell in certain relationships. And that was, there were a few people that always loved me and always cared for me, no matter what happened. And one of them was my guru. I could always go back to him and tell him everything about my life. And the man just loved me. He's like, okay. And he would just listen. And he would just be like, I still love you. And that just boggled my mind, because we are so used to being loved conditionally that you do this, then I would love you. You do that, you make yourself a name, then I will love you. But for me, I got so lucky that I had a backbone, not just with my guru that would love me unconditionally, but with Harold. No matter what I did, he was always so patient and so loving, listening. He's like, that path is not going to take you down where you want to go, but you want to go, you go. Just know that I'll still love you. And it's these amazing pillars in my life that has given me that hope and that positivity to continue, loving myself, because they loved me and they showed me that unconditional love, that even though I made mistakes or even though I did things my parents would not be proud of, if they were alive. But these gentlemen, my guru and Harold, just were there for me no matter what. And if my guru I couldn't speak to on the phone on a regular basis, I know I could always talk to Harold on a regular basis and be able to just ask him questions. So he was a daily, a weekly, conversation. My guru was maybe a couple of months a conversation, but still, to be this lucky and to say, sure, life has its challenges, but no matter what, I've been loved unconditionally, and they give me that strength. They're an example, and because they're an example for me, no matter what anybody's going to do in my life as my close friends, now they have taught me to love unconditionally. I am doing just that, loving and holding the space for people. And I think for me, that came from my guru and from Harold. So.
Beautiful. Yeah. So, clearly receiving unconditional love is a very profound thing for anyone. And you recognize that now, and so the great blessing that you're giving to people when you love unconditionally, don't you?
Yes.
And I imagine that you aim to do this kind of all the time.
I
as
do.
Much as you can.
I try. How about that? I try.
Yeah.